Well, yeah, we've used photography and videos to create a whole lot of content for our company that's been very powerful and helped drive an incredible amount of interest.
Shooting it raw?
Yes. Shooting it raw. It's perfect. It's perfect. Yeah. Okay, so Galiano Tiramani. How do I say your last name properly? How does your father say your last name?
Tiramani.
Tiramani. Okay, Galiano Tiramani. Nice to talk to you. I'm assuming you're Italian.
Yeah.
Ah, ciao.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, but my father is Italian and speaks it. I do not. But that's all right.
It's okay. It's okay. I will talk with a very bad accent, and then you laugh at me, I laugh at you, and we'll have fun.
Nice.
Okay.
Nice.
So thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. What I love about this situation here is, in my own life, I'm a curious person who explores, and I was looking for investment opportunities or people doing really amazing things. And I stumbled upon Boxable. And then I thought, wow, these guys are doing something fantastic and I want to learn more. And so I reached out and I thought, you know what? Maybe I'll have you on the podcast. I gave that to you as an option. And you're like, sure. Let's talk about that. The more I learn about you, the more I want to share with the world the amazing work you're doing. And using the photographs, we can really frame the conversation and reveal what you guys are doing and the change you guys are trying to create. You'll see within an hour that we're going to cover a lot of ground, and it's hopefully going to be a very pleasant experience for you.
Great. Sounds good. Thank you for having me.
So the first photograph, I have to describe it. In it, there are 3 of your workers wearing these orange fluorescent hard hats. You're in a factory. One of the workers on the right is driving one of the small cranes or lift. It's attached at the top. There's a hook, and it's attached to a wall that is being hinged. So it's on a big, like a gigantic hinge, and he's basically lifting up this wall in front of 2 other workers who are talking and I guess sort of in preparation around to secure the wall. And I could see a little bit of, garbage debris in one of the bins. There's like, it's basically inside you're in a factory. What makes it kind of more humane, kind of amusing is, for some reason you have this gigantic, US flag on one of the walls. And in it, there's also an inflatable, Santa Claus, which is just in the background. This is all in the background. And the premise of the picture of the photograph is this in production object that's very complex, that looks like it's being unfolded because it's called Boxable. It has something to do with housing. So why is this photograph an important image for the company?
Yeah, so that's back when we were just earlier on in the company. We took this picture. It was during the production of one of our earlier prototypes, and I'm pretty sure that was one of the first few times we actually unhinged, unfolded, folded the house. Of course, that's very important here. Our houses fold up so that they can ship to reduce the cost. So this photo was taken during our prototype building of the early models that we did in our first facility. That was a smaller building, and I guess it was Christmas, and we had Santa in there too. So this. It's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. And this factory, where is this factory? Like this photograph, what's the location?
We're in Las Vegas, North Las Vegas. By the racetrack, the Speedway, and by the Dallas Air Force Base. And it's a 10,000 foot warehouse building where we did most of the R&D and and experimentations and testing to get the product figured out.
The only time I've been to Vegas, I'm a Canadian. The only time I've been to Vegas was at the time my sweet darling, girlfriend at the time, and I drove down from Vancouver in a Mustang convertible, and we went to Vegas and we got married in a drive-through wedding chapel, and that's nice. The closest I've come to you guys.
I'm telling my fiance that's what we should do. She's not interested in the idea though.
It was a magical moment, I have to admit it. But more about you. So where did the germ of this idea come from?
Well, back in 2017, we started really working on it. The initial idea was my father's, to fold up the house to make it shippable. He built many years before that a modular house using traditional factory-built housing, and the shipping solution that they had was just very expensive and cumbersome. And I think the story he told me was he built such a large house, he had to ship a certain amount of room modules, and he actually exhausted like all the permits that the town would give anyone to ship these modules. So it was like, this doesn't work at all. It's not scalable. No one else can ship any houses for a month. So he drew the original folding house, and then nothing really happened with it for many years until we decided to revisit it in 2017. At that time, I was living in Northern California, and he had just moved to Vegas, and we just started working on it. And I ended up just doing a tremendous amount of research on kind of alternative building materials and figuring out the issues in the market and figuring out what our solutions would be and how we would solve all the different pain points and the friction that makes construction slow and expensive. And then, we took it beyond just a folding and re-engineered the whole building and selected all different building materials. And it really, continued to get more and more traction. And now we find ourselves here about to turn on a really big factory.
Yeah. So, okay. So part of my background is I've worked in many, many different organizations and companies and sectors. And, the common thread is communication, right? So from pharmaceuticals to human rights. And one of them was engineering consulting. And so when I saw what you guys are doing, I thought it's essentially, it's sort of what you described. It's like you're designing a solution that's going to work. So in your case, transporting a house through the traditional means is so costly and difficult. And so you thought, okay, let's deconstruct that and let's kind of get into it in terms of the materials and the design. And so, but that is, I understand how technical that is. And so what's your expertise on the technical side?
Well, initially, nothing. I'm not an engineer. I have no background in building construction, no experience whatsoever. But, I'm a quick study, and, my MO is to, learn things and figure out, businesses through, just a lot of research on the internet, basically. But Paolo and Kyle, the other two guys that started this with me, they are both, real engineers. So in the last 4 years, it's been just every day, nonstop research and learning and product testing and all these problem solving, all these different things. So now I have become, an expert on all this stuff as we explored, the marketplace and the issues. And
you sound like an entrepreneur.
Yep. Never really had a job or anything like that. So definitely true.
I'm in Hong Kong. You're in Las Vegas. As it happens, my work has been to work with like a very successful entrepreneur and business leader, right? Who, if you've ever used DHL, he was one of the co-founders of DHL. And for 15 years, I helped him sort of create a model of entrepreneurship, a model of service leadership, really looking at how to build healthy service teams, right? And so when I started reading about Boxable and started seeing about how you guys were emerging, it's kind of like across all the different measures, you guys were clearly onto something strong. And so it's really interesting. So, in the first stage or phases of a company where you guys are taking this idea and this vision of, let's make a house that we can sort of fold up, transport, unfold it, and then create this very livable space for people. And as you work, you're kind of inventing the processes as you go. So describe how you went from that smaller factory to now you're going to this much larger facility, which, I've already read about. But why don't you talk about this new facility and what kind of capacity it's going to be able to produce?
Yeah. So at a certain point, as we, did these various iterations of the product, the different generations of the product, we said, all right, well, we got it. This one's great. This one's what we want to do. And now we need to start building them in a factory. So we, started that process to figure out how we're going to do that. And, of course, it was a tremendous amount of research on manufacturing equipment and all these other processes that we had to figure out. And then there was other aspects as well, like, how do we get the money to do something like this? How do we find the people to help us? So, we slowly navigated all that and made a lot of, good decisions along the way, had a few lucky breaks. And, now we're here in a few weeks, going to be turning on production in a 170,000 foot building. So that's like four acres inside of a building, and it should produce thousands of these homes per year. And really, we think it's just a start. And a lot of things contributed to that and contributed to us starting off big, because at first we wanted to take a more manageable bite, which was a kind of a smaller factory. But as people found out about the product and interest flooded in, and we got orders, including a big order from the federal government, we realized, all right, we can't start small because this will, we need to become so big. So it was pretty good. We are in a good area here in Las Vegas, where they're putting up tremendous amounts of these concrete warehouse buildings. So we were able to jump into an existing building. We didn't have to wait to build our own building, and it was a brand new building, and we kind of customized, fit out this and customize this brand new building. Yeah, it's been a really exciting journey, and as we've grown and the interest has grown, resources and opportunities have just really poured in. So it's been very exciting, and we're looking forward to starting to sell these things.
Look, let's use that as the sort of the jumping off point to the next photograph and see where we end up. The next photo is a screenshot of, so it's basically like a YouTube screenshot, and it's in a large factory space, and in it, it's like a wide angle image. Maybe it's the kind of image that's almost looks like one of those GoPro cameras, right? Like it's just very, very wide. And in it, I can see half of the image on the left has this like prototype looking box. It looks like it looks like it's made out of drywall, but maybe it isn't. I have no idea. And there are probably 5 people standing there discussing something, standing on a large concrete floor. It's like it's like a proper factory sort of environment. And on the right side, it looks like it's got different sort of setups for, I don't know, I guess like doors or cladding or windows. And behind that are just massive industrial shelves with, I don't know, materials stacked up. So walk us through what this photograph details.
Yeah, that was, really the point where we went from just a drawing into actually building something. And that is in Canada. It's a factory in Canada that specialized in the type of panels that we thought we wanted to use for the product. So at a certain point, we had a website. We were kind of showing this off and talking to people about the idea. And then we got approached by, it's called, I think it's Professional Builder Magazine. And they sponsored a show in Las Vegas, which was the International Builder Show. It's one of the biggest builder construction related trade shows in Vegas. I think it's got 100,000 attendees or something like that. And the guy just called me one day out of the blue and said, "Hey, you want to be in our show? And do you want to bring a house there and put it in the parking lot?" And what they would do every year is they would have people build houses in the parking lot, and it would be part of the show. They called it Show Village, and you would have all the traditional modular house guys there. And, we got this opportunity, and I said, I went to my team and I said, "All right, guys, do we want to do this? Can we do this? We haven't done anything yet." We would be committing to doing it, and we would be, really screwing over these people and ourselves if we're not able to execute on it. So we said, "Yeah, let's do it. It's a huge opportunity, and we'll make it happen." So then we, kicked the engineering into high gear, found this company in Canada, help us build these initial prototypes, and went to work, and things went pretty well for the most part. We managed to pull it off. That picture there is a screenshot of a video that's like a time-lapse video where they are folding and unfolding the house. And we originally, I think we're watching it on like a security cam type footage because they were in Canada and we were here. We went and visited them a few times, but they did everything according to our design. And so that was one of the first times on those early prototypes where that we kind of built it for real, and it was actually working. So those units there are larger units. So the original idea was to build like full-size houses as a modular solution. So those are two 750 or so foot room modules that connect together to build a big house with kitchen, living room, 2 bedrooms, landing area, and all that. And we ended up pulling it off and getting to the show in time. We had pretty much everything that could possibly go wrong went wrong, but we still got it going. It was funny. We had ended up having like issues with the builder up there where they were mad, and they shut down stopped the construction and delayed us, and we were like, "Oh no!" And then when we went to ship the units from Canada down here, they put them on the truck, and they said, "Hey, these are too wide. These are not a standard load. These are a wide load." And we said, "What do you mean? The whole point of this is to make it a standard load, so it's less expensive." So that was like, a week or a few days before the show. We said, "All right, send it anyway." And, of course, we experienced all the problems that we've been trying to solve by being considered a wide load. And that meant that we had restricted routes. We had restricted travel times, couldn't drive on the weekend. We had to have police escorts. At a certain point, the truck hit a snowstorm, like a massive snowstorm, and wasn't able to make it down. But eventually it got there. It was a little bit late, not late for the show, but late for the setup, because everyone had like a week to set up. So we lost like a couple days off the setup, but then we got it there in time and set it up. And then, the morning of the show, it started snowing in Las Vegas. Which is not a common thing, and certainly nothing we planned for or expected. And we thought we'd just be sitting out in the sun, in Vegas. These were prototype units; they didn't even have a completed roof on them. Like there was a huge gap in the roof where you could see the sunlight. So it was like 5 a.m. the morning before the show, snowing on the roof. Early morning, it kind of warms up and stops snowing, and then all the snow on the roof melts, and the whole house floods with water. And I was like, "Oh my God, it's terrible." But we managed to clean it all up, and no one knew, and everything was perfect. Wow. And people loved it. They thought it was really cool.
Well, like from the two, I'll add two things to that. on the one side, from my work at, the engineering consulting company, it's like, until you're in engineering and construction, everything, the one thing that I came to realize was there's a lot of litigation. There's a lot of going to court. And I was like, what's with going to court? Yeah, it's just like, because there's so many things that can go wrong and that can ruin a project or halt a project or slow. So that was one side of engineering consulting that I learned immediately. There's like, okay, it's very complex. And then from the other side, with the work in entrepreneurship, one of the big ones, the big lessons for entrepreneurs is Murphy's Law, that if something can go wrong, it will. Like your example, that the whole point of this thing is to make it, standard onto like container, not wide load. And then that's exactly what you had to face on your kind of, prototype to that show.
So why? I forgot the moral of the story.
Okay.
We didn't design it wrong. They wrapped it in like a plastic wrap, and then they nailed on these like little wood furring strips around the perimeter of it to hold down the plastic wrap. And that bumped it just like by an inch over the higher requirements. So when it got back down to us in Vegas, we realized, that's why it would happen. So there's a lot of valuable lessons there.
Oh, wow. Wow. Amazing. I mean, okay. Well, let's move on to the next photo because it's kind of, in a way, the photograph itself is nothing to write home about, but it is. It's basically kind of a big rectangular box, mostly white. It has Boxable across the face of it, and it's sitting on a trailer bed. Is this the one from the Vegas show that you were talking about, or is this? So in it's basically it's sitting on a red sort of trailer. And you've got the windows, and it doesn't look like a house. It looks like basically a folded up, what you'd think of as a house, because you can see windows. And just behind it, you could just make out the height of a crane or something. So, do you know what photo I'm talking about?
Yep. So that was that Vegas show. It was the units, I don't know, either arriving or departing.
Okay.
And us setting up, for that first show, and that's the crane that lifted it off the truck and set it up, and some more things went wrong at this point. Mainly, well, it wasn't that bad. The one of the lifting points where they lift the roof up snapped.
Oh,
it was like an eye hook.
Okay.
And it broke, and the whole roof like collapsed and smashed down. It wasn't really much damage.
Right.
But so that's us hanging out in the parking lot of the show.
So so in terms of somebody who's listening to it now, okay, so how far along are you? Like in terms of Boxable units, have you actually sold and shipped a proper little house out to somebody?
No, not really. Essentially, all we've done now is build prototypes for proof of concept.
Mm-hmm.
Because the pitch here is assembly line mass production.
Right.
If we were just building these by hand and selling them, it wouldn't really get us anywhere. So, we need that factory. So we just built the prototypes to prove the concept and build up interest. And then we're able to leverage ourselves into this factory that we are going to be turning on soon. And then hopefully we'll be selling. But everything we've built so far is just kind of models to showcase.
Right. And to go back into the factory thing. So I got a message, or I got a notification, or I read somewhere that you're working with Porsche to sort of partner with them for the robotics on this factory line, right?
Yeah, a pretty cool opportunity. We were able to hire Porsche, the car company, their consulting arm, where they have hundreds of experts in factory production, and they actually set up all kind of different factories all over the place. So we were a few guys who didn't have any experience in actually building our own factory, but we had a plan to do it, and we needed to run it by the experts. So we brought them in, and they were extremely valuable in confirming our plans and helping us tweak things and making smart recommendations of just very, stuff like how do you move around a big panel? How much shelving do you need? All these different things. What should the shape of the assembly line be to make it most efficient? So that's pretty good, and they're there ready if we need them again, and I'm sure we will.
Wow. So talk about like big picture concept, right? So in this massive warehouse space, you've got, let's say, just broadly speaking, on the left, you've got the raw materials, right? And in the middle, let's say you've got your massive robots who pick up the sheets and do the manipulation, create, I guess, walls, like the house walls, and then the floor and everything. And then the house is literally sort of stacked, put together on top of this production line. And so does it literally go from start to finish to produce one actual unit, or does it have to kind of be transported off one part of the line to another part of the line where humans have to come in and do actual, manual labor to assemble? Like, how automated is this?
Yeah. So, really, this initial phase is a very manual process. We eventually want to end up looking like an automobile factory, and if you've ever looked at that on YouTube or something, it's just amazing level of kind of custom automation and robotics, and we want to get there, and we're planning a product that's compatible with that. But the initial factory we have is really mostly manual. We get a lot of benefit just from like off the shelf CNC cutting equipment. So it's different than a traditional house factory where you would have guys with nail guns, throwing together pieces of lumber. We have a laminated panel process where all of our raw materials are processed and cut by computer controlled equipment to very accurate tolerance parts. And then they're assembled together rapidly. Right away when we launch, those panels will be assembled by people with vacuum lift assistant, and then later on we'll swap those out for robot arms, and then the house just kind of moves through these stages. So it's more about assembly line now than automation, but the plan is to get to that level of automation that you see in the automobile manufacturing. For example, the Ford F-150 factory, there's a cool video that they put out where they advertise that they make one truck every 53 seconds. Our factory is planned to produce one house every 90 minutes.
Wow.
One day we can get to that 53 seconds, and it's just a matter of scale, and it's just going to be a massive, massive scale and capital investment that you need to get to that level. But we're going to do it, and the need is there. There's a huge housing problem and shortages, availability all over. So, we think we have a way to dramatically reduce housing costs and bring building manufacturing up to speed with other existing manufacturing processes.
Okay, well, so let's get a little deeper into this. Okay, so one of the big questions now, so one of the reasons why I reached out was because, as a case study, I have some land in British Columbia, right? And I have this nice property in British Columbia, and it's beautiful, it's perfect wooded, and then just trying to think of what would we do? Would we put a camper van? Would we put something with we're looking for something with a low footprint, but because we're not wealthy by any stretch, we're looking for something affordable. And Boxable seems to be ideal in that you order this house, it's put on a train or put on a shipping truck. So, for example, in your video, you show towing it with a car, right? I think it's a Tesla or something. Is that just for show, or is that actually weight-wise? Is that a feasible thing to do? So
the house should be like between maybe like 10 to 15,000 pounds, depending on the version of it. So that's dramatically lower weight than any other traditional manufactured housing because of the materials we're using, and we wanted to reduce the weight to make it less costly to move it around and the equipment you needed on site to set it up. Technically, a Tesla is not rated to tow that amount of weight, but but you can do it. It's just because it's not rated to doesn't mean you can't do it. So we did it.
1 mile.
The battery was dead after 1 mile. Yeah, we did it just to make a cool video. But you can tow these with a bigger, regular pickup truck. And maybe even a Tesla pickup truck or a Tesla big rig if they come out with those in the future. So very important to get the best possible case we can. It's always going to cost money to ship them. We want to spend as little as possible on that part of it so that we can really make the factory work for housing.
I'm worried that because I've seen the videos that sort of show how you basically unbox this house, right? Maybe that's not quite communicating for somebody who's listening. So have you explained that to people in terms of if somebody says to you, you go to a party and they say, so what are you doing? And you say, well, I understand like you're radically changing the economics of a house production by lowering massive costs. But how do you convey to somebody who's listening? You should be like, what do you mean you unbox a house? What is that? So what do you mean? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, maybe we should have told them that first.
Yeah. But, this is my interview style. We just kind of dive in and see where we end up.
That's what I do too in life. I'm just winging it.
Mm-hmm.
So we wanted to engineer the biggest possible room module that we could that would be able to fold up to become a highway legal load. So whenever you go to an oversized load, it gets very expensive, as I went into a little bit before. So the magic number is 8.5 feet wide. As long as you're less than 8.5 feet wide, the majority of those extra costs and fees go away. So our room modules fold up to 8.5 feet wide, but they unfold to 20 feet wide. So really great situation. And not only do they fold up to 8 feet wide, but we're still able to actually finish stuff inside of them. So this first room module that we're starting with, the first product, has a kitchen and bathroom inside of it when it folds up. So it's not just panels, it's not just walls and floors, everything's done in there.
It's fully furnished.
Yeah, we even get a fridge in there. So basically, if people go online later to Boxable.com and see the video, they'll notice that although it folds up, not all of it folds up. There's about 5 or 6 feet by the length of the unit that's not folding. So we're able to finish stuff in the factory in that space, fold up all the empty space, because most houses and most rooms are mostly empty space, and end up with a very efficient thing where we engineered these really big 20-foot wide rooms with high 9.5 foot high ceilings that really don't have a lot of compromise in them to make the shipping possible. And we were able to fold them up, and now they can become a standard truckload and be compatible with all the existing shipping logistics, all around the world, whether it's a train or a truck or a boat. We just want to make this thing compatible with the roads and highways and existing infrastructure so that, we can ship them. And it's a really big deal because housing is really the last modern product that's not built efficiently in a factory. It's built very inefficiently by hand. And the biggest reason for that is it's too big. You can't build a huge house and ship it. It doesn't make any sense. So we have a solution to that where we'll build these rooms, fold them up, ship them, unfold them on site. It just takes a couple hours and they set up and they're ready to go. And then you can also stack and connect the rooms to build different custom buildings. So we think our system can build basically, for the most part, every building type on the planet, most building types with the system, starting with this little initial module that we're starting with, which is the smallest room module in our system. It's 20 feet by 20 feet with the kitchen bathroom in it. And then once you unfold it, you put a bed and a couch in too. And, the idea to start was to target California backyard housing. They call them accessory dwelling units. California kind of legalized everyone to put a house in the backyard of their main house. In an effort to, increase housing affordability and increase density. So they've just opened it up. They've fully legalized it. You can do it. Pretty much every single backyard in California can put up another house in the backyard. Mm-hmm. So really cool place for us to start, rapidly growing new market where, these things can just be dropped into backyards all over the place.
So what's the environmental, like in terms of new materials and so for example, when we were looking at this house in BC to build ourselves, we're looking at hempcrete, we're looking at the cob houses, the issue is that, you make it yourself, but, which is, of course, it's very satisfying. And then we could also make sure that the materials are, environmentally less, impactful than, say, standard, the normal products. But so what have you guys been doing around that in terms of, so obviously just by doing it through manufacturing, you're getting the economies of scale. So that's amazing. But what about the actual materials themselves? Like, have you been also looking at new materials to make more environmentally friendly options, or is it still according to the cheaper, more available materials out there?
So they're not built using the traditional lumber framing that you would see in most of North America. We use all different materials, and we had to serve a whole bunch of different requirements, and they're not always aligned. So, it has to be energy efficient, it has to be wind resistant, it has to be lightweight, it has to be water resistant, a whole list of requirements that we need. And, maybe if you make it more, less heavy, it's going to be more expensive, or, if you want to increase the energy efficiency, maybe the wind rating goes down, all these kind of things like that.
Yeah.
So we found a really good balance there. And, one of the good things about our product is it's extremely energy efficient because the walls are made from a laminated panel, and the core of the wall is EPS foam, and the entire wall is made in one single laminated block, where the entire core is uninterrupted EPS foam. So you have this high energy efficiency insulation throughout the entire wall. And you don't have the lumber studs where you would lose energy in a traditional home. And it's also a very tight envelope where it kind of holds the air in. So tremendous energy efficiency on these houses.
Yeah. So one of the cool, okay. So basically when I saw what it looks like, it's kind of like you have this crane or this lift comes in, puts it down. Do you have to put it down on a secure standard foundation, or does it go pretty much anywhere?
Yeah, another cool thing that we were able to figure out, the house really doesn't need a foundation. It can go down on anything, on the grass, on the pavement. The floor is incredibly strong. In most cases, you will need a foundation if you want it to be a permanent, permitted house. In that case, these are compatible with any foundation type. Anything from a full slab to just like 4 piers on each corner, it's going to bolt onto it. Okay.
Yeah, so then it's really neat. It's kind of like, for me, it was like as a kid watching Transformers. You see this like rectangle, cube, or box. And then, like, as you guys say, well, within about 45 minutes to an hour, I mean, other than the heavy lifting equipment to position, I'm assuming, and to lift the walls, some of the walls, because they're on hinges, are moved by hand. I mean, it looks really like it's like unboxing this new device. It's like, okay, you unbox it, a new PS4 or a new iPhone or whatever, and you're just like, look at my new house, and inside it's finished. It's got. So for me, for example, as a consumer, part of me is like, okay, well, I have this land on the other side of the planet from Hong Kong, and I'm thinking to myself, how do I get a sort of a habitation on this place where, let's say I have 2 weeks or 3 weeks of vacation, and I don't want to spend my whole, time, just, my vacation breaking my back. So, when I saw what you guys were doing, I was like, how compelling, just have it brought over by a barge or by a truck, and then just placed. And then within a day, you could sleep in your own space. It's amazing.
Yeah, and what you said about the unboxing is true. What we have now is more of like a consumer product than a bunch of raw building materials. So, it sparked people's imaginations because they think of all the stuff that they wanted to do with buildings. Mm-hmm. And now it's like attainable. It's not as intimidating as building something from scratch. So, yeah, it's really exciting.
The last photograph, which is also going to be exciting, it's the photograph here is so you have the Boxable. It's in this case it's like a showcase. So in the photo, the bottom quarter of it has the Boxable unit, I guess. Looks like a prototype, an early prototype, and then the top half of the image is sky and trees, and in the distance is the very iconic, recognizable U.S.
Capitol.
It's the Capitol, but it's the, I guess, Congress? Is that what it is?
Yeah, so that photo is taken on what's called the National Mall in front of, I believe it was the Capitol building in the background there. That's in, Washington, D.C. And we got invited to, I guess they called it the Housing Innovation Showcase, something like that, along with just a few other exhibitors to kind of show this off to lawmakers and people like that. So it was really, really cool for us. We folded up the house and we put it on a truck and we sent it to Washington, and we had more kind of learning experiences, and we had more Murphy's Law stuff there as well. Mm-hmm. There's tunnels underneath of that National Mall, and they're not supposed to bring like big rigs like trucks in the tunnel.
Right.
But our truck driver decided to drive the truck into the tunnel, and he crashed the house.
Oh no!
Crashed it. So he basically went through the tunnel, smashed the whole thing, scraped it across the top of the tunnel, smashed all the lights off the tunnel, destroyed it. And then we were like, oh man. So then we got it there and we took it off and we looked at the damage, and it wasn't that bad, and we patched it up a little bit, and once again, no one knew about the troubles we had, and we made it in time for the show. So that's just another, funny story. And, that was a cool,
So what are you guys looking at for the next 6 months, 1 year? You're getting investors, you're obviously getting attention, and it's like, what is on the horizon for you for the next 6 months and then for the next year? So obviously the factory is a big deal, but get us excited. What's happening?
Yeah, things are going really well. We're getting a tremendous amount of interest pouring in from all over the world. That's resulted in almost 40,000 people putting their name on a wait list to buy one of these. And as soon as we get our certificate of occupancy and move into this new factory in the next few weeks, we're going to start production on our first order, which is actually from the federal government, where they've ordered about 150 houses. So we are going to get to work building those houses and ramping up the assembly line and dialing it in and learning all the lessons we need to learn, so that hopefully we can, middle of next year or so, get up to that full production speed. And then from there, I will be looking to take it to the next level. And, I'll be looking for much more money from investors once it's proven, very significant sums. And I'll be looking to do something 10 times bigger with the full robotics. And it's going to be really exciting once we prove everything, which is going to happen really soon. The upside here is going to be clear to everyone, and nobody's going to be able to deny it and say, who are you? You're some dumbass who's never done anything like this before. You can't do it. And but no, we're gonna do it, and then we're gonna say, look, this is a huge solution to housing problems all over the world. The goal of the company is to just dramatically reduce housing costs so that people can have higher qualities of life because they're spending less money on housing, and they have more kind of upscale housing. So really could potentially have a really massive impact if we're able to pull that off the way I think we will. And all of our principles indicate to me that we're onto something, and we're significantly ahead of everyone else, doing traditional buildings.
Right. How I discovered, came across, and sort of reached out was very much kind of a use case. So like this native demand that is kind of emerging in my head made me look around. And so then when I saw this, it definitely captured my attention. So from my professional side, from my, as a consultant and work in terms of service leadership, which is another thing that feeds into the podcast, we often talk about how part of what makes Boxable successful or how it will fail is the chemistry of the people, right? So in terms of the team, in terms of how you grow in a way that adds the right people from the small sort of garage team into a larger sort of company, and then to potentially a large enterprise. So how are you, like, what is your resource, and how are you getting the advisory services? So you're growing, because on the one hand, it's building the great product, okay, which is kind of clear. It's kind of like, okay, we have to make an amazing house that is like, that we can sort of build larger options for people, so you can satisfy the market. But then the other side of it is the harder side of it, I think, is how do you create the network of people that it sustains itself, right? So who is helping you create that network?
Well, one thing that's really cool is, this video of the house unfolding has caught people's attention online, so it's kind of gone viral many times, and we have tens of millions of video views, and of course that pushes a tremendous amount of interest. And one resource we've got from that interest is people reaching out and saying, "This is awesome. I want to help you. I want to work for you, and I want to participate in this." So that's been key to our success, and we've gotten support from every angle. I now have we're building a team here in Vegas, working directly. We're building a huge list of customers. We're building a huge list of individual investors. We're building a huge list of people who want to be installers, people who want to sell us products. I mean, through forms on the website, we've just been accruing all these offers to participate in this. And
amazing.
Yeah, it's really cool. So we have all these resources to tap into.
Wow. It's a big sort of movement that you're like riding this wave. So it's fantastic.
Yep, definitely.
Well done. So like I said before, when we started talking, an hour goes by very quickly. So thank you for joining me. And in terms of what you'd like to see, would you want to speak to that as well? Or is there anything else you'd like to add to kind of round out the portrait of what you guys are trying to do?
Nothing specific. I would just say, if people are interested, check out the website, check out the YouTube, the Instagram. As we go through this and continue to grow, we're going to continue to put up, videos and information about our progress. And, we're going to have a crazy couple of years as we grow this thing, and hopefully we can have a massive impact on humanity at the end of the day. That's what we want to do.
Yeah. I think so. For example, when you tell the stories or the anecdotes of how Murphy's Law, how you're shipping it, and all of a sudden just like, oh shit, there's this, that kind of stuff for people like young budding entrepreneurs or people trying to understand or to kind of get the human side of things is kind of fascinating and enjoyable. So what has happened? I mean, I think so far it's probably been a whirlwind. So you're probably like, whoa, holy shit. Like this is just like amazing. But what event can you think of that happened that just really blew your mind? Because when you start something like this, you never know what's coming up ahead, right? You can't see into the future. For all you know, next week, something that completely dwarfs everything else will happen, right? So what has happened in the past, say, 6 months or year that you would have never anticipated that was just like mind-blowing result?
Maybe just the sheer volume of interest has stunned us, because when we started, we thought, this idea for a building system that can build any building is a big idea. But starting with this little casita house, we didn't think that many people would be interested. There's a certain niche group of people interested in kind of tiny homes. And for the amount of interest we have gotten, it's been humbling, because it's just absolutely massive. I have so many requests. I can't even answer my phone anymore because it rings all day, every day. I can scroll back through my missed call log. It's just all red. So it's like huge amount of interest. And, it continues to amaze us that so many people have recognized that we kind of are onto something.
Amazing. Well, clearly, because some Yahoo from Hong Kong reaches out and he's just like, "Hey, do you want to talk?" And you're like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah,
I love it.
I apologize. I'm a little bit frazzled because of that. So, like, basically every day, all day, I'm on the phone with people, because so many people are interested and so many emails coming in. So, as we kind of scale up and we bring on, other people to help, and we can offload some of these duties.
Sure.
But it certainly has been a whirlwind so far.
Wow. Galiano, thank you so much. First of all, I appreciate it. I have witnessed and seen what it's like for people to be in your position, but it means you're onto something, man. It's like you guys are onto something, and this whole podcast episode be an ad for you, because I think what you guys are doing is really inspiring and amazing. And yeah, I'll be also talking with my wallet. So yeah, good man. Well done.
Very, very nice. Good to meet you, and thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Okay, thanks, man. Have a good evening.
Alrighty, you too. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
Shooting it raw?
Yes, shooting it raw.